words with which Justice R.S. Pathak concluded his decision in the landmark Union Carbide case, which confirmed the historic $500 million compensation package for the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today as we gather together to remember one of India's finest legal minds. Justice Raghunandan Swarup Pathak was India's 18th Chief Justice and began his illustrious career on the bench upon being appointed a judge of the Allahabad High Court at the young age of 38. He wrote prolific judgments on issues spanning constitutional, civil, and criminal law. I first met Justice Pathak when I was 14 years old. He taught me the importance of responsibility and staying faithful to one's values. He gave a purposeless boy of 14 a reason to strive. My book, Equabilis, which is Latin for fairness, equity, and justice, attempts to highlight some of Justice Pathak's landmark decisions while he served as a Justice of the Indian Supreme Court. His most important decision, according to me, and one which I have highlighted in my book, was the brave stand he took in the Union Carbide case. He persuaded two brilliant and very competitive lawyers to step away from their adversarial approach in a bid to settle the outstanding claims of compensation to bring immediate relief to the thousands of victims suffering in the aftermath of the gas leak in Bhopal. I am particularly grateful today to our illustrious panelists who have joined us today to remember this great judge. Please allow me to introduce our chair for the evening, Ambassador Lakan Mehrotra, who was formerly the Secretary to the Ministry of External Affairs and also the United Nations Envoy, Special Envoy to Cambodia. I always find it fascinating that Ambassador Mehrotra was selected to the Foreign Service at a time when the final approval came from the Prime Minister himself. But apart from being a highly regarded diplomat and scholar, Ambassador Mehrotra was also a dear friend to Justice Pathak, and their association was both personal and professional. Professor Ranbir Singh was supposed to be with us here today, but he sends his regrets. He's caught up in an urgent matter which he can't extricate himself from. Dr. Sunita Narayan, on my right, serves as the Director General of the Center for Science and Environment in Delhi. She is one of India's leading environmentalists and has had the courage to single-handedly take on unethical multinational corporations in India. I would like to thank my publishers, the AIR group from Nagpur, for supporting me and for believing in the value of this work. Mr. Kavlikar is here. I don't know where he is though. No, there he is. Thank you. And last but not the least, I am particularly grateful to Mrs. Pathak for being here today. Ma'am, your husband was my hero and will always be my role model. Before I hand over the discussion to our chair, Ambassador Mehrotra, I would like to read a message from the former Attorney General of India, Mr. Soni Sorabji, who couldn't be here with us today. Justice R.S. Pathak was a judge par excellence. His judgments display not only erudition, but an unmistakable sense of justice, coupled with compassion and sensitivity for the fundamental rights of the marginalized and exploited sections of Indian humanity. He combined a fine legal head with a warm and humane heart. And with that, I hand over the discussion to Ambassador Mehrotra.
It is a matter of not just pleasure, but a rare privilege for me to be here on this occasion when we are launching a unique book, Equabilis, by a unique author to my left, Jay Dehad Rai. I say unique because he makes this occasion very unique. It is my personal feeling that such occasions are carved in heaven. We cannot organize them ourselves. It was when he was a lad of 17 or 18. He is now an adult. and a lawyer, full-blooded. He spoke to me about Justice Pathak and asked me whether I knew him at all. When I told him about my association with him, which had lasted full 20 years before he breathed his last, he said he is his guru. He had started deriving inspiration from the life and example of Justice Pathak at such an impressionable age. What struck me about the book that he has written so eminently, so profoundly, the more I read it, the more I like it. Such an apt phrase that he used for Justice Pathak in paying his own tribute to him in this book, calling him his guru. Now, you know what a guru is. It derives itself from the tradition of India's past that takes us to at least 3 millennia. Its origin lies in the ashrams of rishis who acted as gurus to disciples, and that is when our educational system started. And everything flowed out of it, including law, our great legal minds. Even Chanakya was a rishi to start with. Guru, one of the great qualities of a guru, why he is called guru, the word garima in Sanskrit. It is gurutva. Gurutva is magnetism. The earth, we are on this earth and not flying away from it because of that gurutva, because of that magnet. And the quality that distinguishes Justice R.S. Pathak from anyone else is this great magnet that I discerned in him. My tribute to him is here. It tells you in just a few words how I came into contact with him. I won't labor on it very much because Dr. Sunita Narayanan will never excuse me for it.
No, I will very much excuse you for it, Ambassador.
She is waiting very impatiently
Not at all.
to give you a very critical assessment of this great work that is before us. But he was a great man, Chief Justice of India. Suddenly he fell ill. Asha ji is here with me, and I convey to her my deepest respects at this moment when we are launching this book and greet her presence. Any other person in a situation like this, lying with high blood pressure 220 by 210, should not be able to speak. I was ambassador in Belgrade and he was placed in a guest house right across my house. And he greets me and Sheila with folded hands and say, "Aapko bahut takleef di." Can you imagine? This was the man. Well, of course, the entire emergency setup was laid out for him, and he came out of that very, very severe and grave situation splendidly. But Thereafter, I discovered several bonds with him. I knew that he was a product of the same, an alumnus of the same university from where I came, Allahabad University. But the pride that he took in that past which forged his future was enormous. It was a treat for me. I'm very proud of my university. But here was a man who said that every bit of his breath is full of Allahabad and the University of He carried the Triveni with him all the time. And this book is a very just tribute to him because the Triveni which characterized him is the Triveni which highlights this book: fairness, equity and justice. Nothing better could. Equabilis was his blood, Equabilis was his heart, Equabilis was his soul. That was Justice Pathak. I say that it is unique not because of my attachment for Justice Pathak, which is very much there, but because when you talk of equity and justice and not fairness, then there is no justice ever delivered. It must be justice with a human face. As Plato said, it has to be discretionary justice. Justice with a stick is the justice of not of a Supreme Court, not of a court, but of a dictator, who is master of his facts and will listen to nothing else. Justice is justice and has value only when it is accompanied by equity and it is accompanied by fairness. I call it justice with a human face. Justice Pathak was first of all a great human being and then a great Chief Justice of India. Like the stars in the firmament, he will shine through the firmament of the legal world for time to come. I was greatly awed by the respect that he commanded at the International Court of Justice when he went through it. And I would, at the end as we conclude, tell you a couple of things that he very personally shared with me about his judgment on the Union Carbide and about his attitude to law and justice and what he stood for. I would not come in between you and Dr. Sunita Narayan, who has taken all the trouble to be with us this evening, who is a great environmentalist, who has labored very hard on issues of environment and who is a practitioner, an activist, who leads us all into correct channels in an age when our mountains are becoming softer, when our rivers are becoming murkier, when our forests are becoming thinner, when our air is getting thicker, and it is all going into not only our bloodstream, but it is occupying a space in our consciousness. Here is the person best qualified to talk about the best judgment that anyone could ever deliver, that is on Union Carbide by Justice R.S. Pathak. I present to you Dr. Sunita Narayan.
Thank you, Ambassador Mehrotra. Thank you very much, Jay, for inviting me. I wasn't very clear why you invited me. This is not an area that, frankly, Bhopal has not been one of our key areas of work. But I was very intrigued when I got your email because, for me, the very fact that normally people don't take the effort and the trouble to actually think through and put out a publication. And I was therefore, I don't know you and we've never met before, but I was intrigued by your email and I definitely would like to support every effort to understand what makes India's history today. And I think the Bhopal judgment is a very important part of our history. It's a very important part of the environmental history of this country. And I also read what you wrote about it. It clearly comes as something which is very important, even for people like me, because for us who are on the other side often to look into what happened at Bhopal, what happened at the judgment, it's always one where you will say, but it wasn't enough. Okay, more could have been done. And yet, I think you have made a very fine analysis of the circumstances and the reasoning and the logic behind what happened at that stage and what was, why the judgment was given. Now that said, I think there are a few things that, in my view, and I keep thinking about this, great men like Justice Pathak, it would be interesting to know how he himself would see things in retrospect. There is something that you do at the moment. And if you think back, this is 1984. We are now going to be 30 years from Bhopal this December. 30 years from Bhopal this December. 1984. First ever industrial accident of this scale, not just in India, but anywhere in the world. The images, and I actually did go to Bhopal on the night after it had happened. I did not stay long because there were a number of other people working there and there did not seem to be a need for us to stay back. But